I'm repping Omniversal Q, chasing with the source while scaling, and the Mortal Kombat meme lives again. Man, he gives no fucks, and after speed blitzing up my comp, chasing one shots 10 out of 10. You're not.
When it comes to the world of League of Legends, there are a lot of champions within Verse. From gods to yordles to aspects, there is a lot of variety whenever it comes to what League has to offer from a narrative perspective. But something I don't feel anyone genuinely discusses is exactly how powerful some of the characters are within just terms of feats and statements. Surprisingly, Ryze the Rune Mage is one of the first champs that actually made it in the game and is terrifyingly more powerful than you'd think he is. Despite being much more well known for being nerfed and reworked entirely, Ryze is a monster within the world of runeterra. Now keep in mind, the gameplay you see in League of Legends whenever you play the game is not a direct reflection of any of the actual power or even the size or even hacks potential of the characters within the game. This video will be specifically on how powerful inverse Ryze is. And keep in mind, as time has gone on, things have changed and have been updated whenever it comes to the lore of League of Legends. I specifically covered any content I could directly find that was sponsored by Riot Games from the creators of League of Legends, who are like the creators of League of Legends. For clarification, I will always specify where I found the information for each trove of scaling or lore I came across during any of these sections. First off, however, let's start off with his main biography on League's universe page. So even starting off strong, his opening quote implies he either fights characters who can unmake the planet or he himself can. Either way, Magic and Verse is safely at planetary level, but we'll get a little bit more into that as time goes on. But the arcane powers shaped the world of runeterra, which is really important to consider, and Ryze is a sorcerer of the highest caliber even early on in his life. Eventually, Ryze came under the tutelage of a guy named Tyrus of Hellia, and he was a member of a group of an OP as fuck faction that kept OP as fuck artifacts, specifically the most dangerous ones of all, the World Runes. Now, these World Runes are next-gen OD, even in comparison to the most powerful mages and factions in all of runeterra. All being saw them as weapons which could give them an advantage on their rivals, which eventually led to the idea of the Rune Wars. The Rune Wars was a period where these weapons of mass destructions, the World Runes, were actively utilized in war. The World Runes' power tears through bedrock and distorts the sky itself. They're capable of destroying entire magical armies, so much so, even witnessing just its after effects is described as beholding insanity or destruction on a scale that defies sense. This is so bad that the mages at the time were worried that there would be no planet left by the time that this war was done. The World Runes have passive hacks that are corruptive and can influence even the most powerful mages across the verse. This includes that guy named Tyrus from before that was Ryze's mentor. And at this point in the story, Tyrus already wielded 2 World Runes. This alone made him such a threat that he could bring an end to all things. This would include other dimensions, including spirit realms and planes. Ryze turns on this guy and one-shots that Tyrus in an instant. Ryze's attack is so OP, even he can't process it. Without his aid, the world of runeterra is surely doomed. He continuously searches for the remaining World Runes over his massively longer than normal lifespan. He's been alive for hundreds of years, being exposed to that broken-ass rune magic. He survived the greatest civilization's collapse time and time again. Ryze also demonstrates a great understanding of the difference between scientific events and magic ones, not conflating the two. This is important as science is a big part of specific regions' lore. This could also be attributed to him being so well traveled, possibly having been there. Ryze has a dense grasp of the most foundational ideals and philosophies of controlling and utilizing magic and the arcane all around him. If anything, dude, Ryze does not lie and he totally isn't virtuous. He's real as fuck. Magic exists everywhere in verse and is the stuff of raw creation itself. He became a pro at guiding that magic in the way that he wants to make anything happen. And of course we have more reinforcement on magical prowess being tied to willpower. That's something interesting. Compared to others, Ryze in his control of magic is just so far beyond them. Much more confirmation on magic also being the first fragments of creation. Which begs the question, does this mean the world runes have something to do with creation magic? The Freljord, this really crazy, apocalyptically winter-bound nightmare up north, its winter lasted 100 lifetimes, and reading books is it's an unimaginable myth here. And this place contains endless hardship. Ryze just kind of like casually wanders through here with the book and a scroll. Ryze has glowing tattoos that radiate arcane energy so bright that people can see him from distances away during a snowstorm. Ryze is so powerful alone that people often mistake him for a spirit or some kind of illusion. Ryze's touch inspires and warms in the coldest of places, such as the Freljord during a blizzard. The sensation is considered so powerful that a fellow magic user, Keegan, is almost broken by his touch. It seems that Ryze has like passive mind reading hacks, because he was pretty obviously reading the mind of the other mage here. And then definitely also not hyperwank. His chuckles can drive people mad. Ryze is known across Runeterra for being the Rune Mage. Entire factions just shit themselves whenever he shows up and they open their doors, like they don't even bother fighting him. Ryze really doesn't care who you are, whether it's a friend, a king, or both. He's gonna do what he's gonna do. And it's very heavily implied here, he nuked the last guy who tried to keep him from a world rune. Much like Anakin, not even younglings are safe from Ryze in his quest for the world runes. He just lets them die in the cold versus with the power of his lightsaber. So this magic king, utilizing frost magic, blasts an off-guard Ryze with the complete intent to kill him. This is important because Yago and Ryze are friends. They're like really good friends. Ryze tanks the attack. Now this attack, it was described as being something no mortal should possess. So take that as you will. Ryze immediately responds after tanking that attack from that amped Frost King mage. Ryze directly uses arcane magics to root the guy down so he can't run away. He says, "No, you're gonna sit here and we're gonna have it out." Now, even though his op is immobile, they have this Mexican wizard standoff casting powers the world hasn't seen for ages, for entire hours. Yago's attacks are considered burning off the flesh of Ryze with the power of 20 stars, eventually bringing down the entire city around them. Ryze reacts afterwards and keeps the man from getting his world runes. Ryze goes to end him, but then lets him fucking fall to his death. He then tells the remaining people they're gonna die if they don't leave this place. What a fucking Chad. He was like, "Yo, I just killed your king, and if you don't leave, y'all gonna die. Sorry." And then when the children walk up and say, "Can't we come with you, please, sir?" Ryze is like, "Nah, dude." He just teleports out, bro. Didn't even save the bystanders. Damn, dude, Ryze goes fucking hard. Alright, so outside of his original stories, but we now switch over to the Call of Power Ryze cinematic. So we do find some interesting stuff here, including some really cool quotes. Like the world runes have transformed fields of stone into life and magics. They've carved mountains, drained oceans, burned skies. The world runes never falter, only grow stronger. So there's something that like infinitely scale. The stronger the world runes grow, the louder they call. So obviously, as time goes on, they grow more and more powerful. And that summons more people, beckons more people. Many seek the runes for balance, control, or power. We then see the fated destruction of the Ryze had cursed before of a world rune. He was weak and naive, meaning he is way more powerful, much wiser than he once was whenever it comes to utilizing them. Ryze isn't afraid of teaming up with people to snag world runes, such as Misfortune to kill tons of pirates. He fights a stone golem of Shurima with Gnosis. Keeping up with Gnosis is pretty impressive because he's an immortal demigod who was ascended by the sun god's magics. Ryze gets flat out impaled by a Navori conspirator and just doesn't care. And then Sona one-shots a wave of Ionian assassins. Ryze can stand up to the most powerful troll alive with his Iceborne Pillar, a wildly powerful magical artifact from the Freljord. This magic can fight void beings, arguably the most powerful faction in Runeterra. Few can resist its call to power. The world runes beckon and of course call you. They have that corruptive force. Ryze then goes on to fight a void being who is baiting out a world rune. He tanks multiple tentacle attacks from the Voidling, who has very similar characteristics to Vel'Koz, a notable void being who might be of his ilk. This also could be a Watcher, and if it's a Watcher, we'd scale that up a little bit higher. After getting jumped by these, he uses his arcane magics to overcome his foe and destroy it despite his trap. He immediately recovered from his wounds and just kept on going. Snagged that world rune. Many say or Ryze here, wields too much power. I mean, damn. Ryze shows he has at least made and or found a place he can safely store world runes. At least, that means they have to contain at least some level of their power, otherwise it would just be beckoning other people. Others believe that he can't be trusted. He says the only true strength is to let the world runes go, implying he scales above them, above at least the influence of the world runes to a certain extent, which has overcome all before him. And then, of course, as usual, he demonstrates teleportation and has at least 4 of the world runes in his possession currently. Now on to the champion spotlight from Ryze the Rune Mage. We got confirmation that he's thousands of years old. The Archmage Ryze sought out ancient runes, storing their power in his arcane scroll. Although Ryze cares deeply about feelings, man, he must forever remain apart from them to protect them from the power that he wields, or the power of like the world runes. So his passive arcane mastery makes Ryze spells do bonus ability power, essentially just magical attack potency based on current mana. He has one of the highest base mana stat champs in the game. Ryze has a variety of weapons at his disposal to augment this too. It increases his mana based on the ability power, demonstrating a unique but ever expanding power level in both fields of mana and AP. His Q is Overload. He fires a cast of runic energy onto a target. Using any other spell immediately allows Ryze to cast Overload. Doing this fast enough charges the runes on Ryze, causing magical shields to appear and give Ryze a burst of speed. Overload also naturally travels to nearby targets affected by Flux, also damaging them all as well. His W, or Rune Prison, casts an arcane rune that fixes a target on a surface and keeps them unable to move, roots them to the ground. If this spell has already been cast, it also increases the duration of that spell. And you're noticing there's a lot of him casting a bunch of different spells around this last one, specifically called Spell Flux. This one targets a foe with arcane magics and marks it and does damage. If you hit a spell that's marked with any of his other spells, obviously they have different effects. The spell can affect multiple foes nearby, especially if you cast it on the same one twice, and can take out waves of foes. And then, of course, his ultimate ability is Realm Warp, which we've seen demonstrated a few different times throughout all of the stories, where he just teleports a set distance away at the 2-second cast time. And at any point in time, the channel cannot be stopped. In conclusion, Ryze's power set is a very powerful combination of quick bursty comboed spells whenever he's in combat. But typically in lore, unlike in game, he just one-shots you. Okay, so going to some really old content here, I have got like one of the original opening videos for for the entire game of League of Legends. And of course, in this situation, we see Ryze actively utilizing the summoner spell Ghost and moving through objects, and then his Rune Prison can hold back Nasus, who's a powerful demigod. Keep in mind, this is very questionably canon nowadays, but it's something to consider. And then, of course, in another cinematic, as seen here, we have Ryze being attacked by Nocturne, a being of pure fear and nightmares. He's making Ryze completely trip out, but the second he fucks with Ryze scrolls, Nocturne gets nuked so hard they literally have to change scenes. Now, in terms of in-game voice lines, there's some interesting things to consider. He defies swords and arrows, has a vast knowledge of all magical items in the shop, can sense powerful objects such as world runes and follow them, has obliteration spells and is not afraid to use them. Other people's minds can't handle the things he's seen at this point in time in his journey. Claims in an instant all could be gone. This could be either in reference to the world runes or his own power. He claims all that binds the world is willpower, literally does not trust anyone, and he has a pretty interesting quote where he says, "I remember when only one world weighed on my shoulders." This pretty heavily implies that the destruction of our world can potentially affect others, or maybe even dimensions. Or does his job require him to defend multiple planets with those world runes? Like, I guess there's a lot of questions as to exactly how dangerous his world runes are. Simply just him telling his story takes ages to tell. He never retreats, which is important. He never runs away. He simply runs at you the long way around. Being dead wastes precious time, according to him, which begs the question, has he been killed before? Or does he care about death? Or is he referencing the game mechanic that's in the game? There's going to be two sounds, me hitting you and you disintegrating. Well, disintegration spell's confirmed. Isn't afraid to talk shit to either Aurelian Soul or Bard, both wildly powerful magical beings or gods within the verse. His tattoos conduct the magical runic energy from those world runes, another reason why he's so OP. He isn't afraid of void beings such as Malzahar or what he summons. If he sees his opponent, he can beat it. Now this is important considering Watchers are characters in verse. The next thing we're going to cover here is the Ryze's actual comic, which features Brand rather heavily. Essentially, there's just a few interesting things here, some really cool imagery. No one else is up to Ryze's task but Ryze. I mean, that's a pretty consistent thing we see across the board whenever it comes to him. The Rune Wars nuked entire cities, as we've established. The world runes can be fragmented and hidden across other places, but this doesn't appear to ease their power in any shape, way, or form, or limit their power in any shape, way, or form. We see Ryze blasting away a horde of whatever these things are. I don't know, mummified zombie people who speak some sort of foreign language. He can detect and dispel powerful wards to destroy those who are trespassing in ancient god-bound lands, even under pressure. He can create a barrier spell that holds off the magical damage of Brand, as well as the heat and the lava. Brand is a powerful op that is also after the world runes, but to utilize them for selfish purposes. Ryze utilizes maybe some kind of like small construct, or potentially maybe a smaller version of his rune prison, and pulls the fragmented world rune towards himself. He then dodges an attack from like an enraged Brand, who's also after this world rune as well, or this fragmented one. Another legendary hero here gets one shot by Brand, but Ryze can both keep up with him as well as tank his attacks with magical barriers. Even in a few moments, just being exposed to a fragment of a world rune can corrupt some of the most powerful heroes across the face of the planet, even to their own acknowledgement. It whispers to you all of your dreams and desires. Brand can cast rune prisons on somebody like Brand. Keep in mind, somebody who is augmented with the power of a world stone, and just put him in timeout until he's done doing whatever it is he's doing. Ryze teleports out of a place that's falling apart because the fragmented world runes sustained it, and now that he removed it, the place can no longer exist. Brand was still on timeout at this point in time in that room prison. And he says he'll find him, but even if he does, he'll probably just get put in prison again. Even holding a fragment of a world rune allowed this hero specifically to see and feel everything in existence. Now, even though those corrupted runes, obviously like before, are pretty busted, Ryze overcomes the influence that they have over him. This last thing may or may not be ultra omega hyper wank alert, okay? But it is something to consider. So Ryze is a character who casts nostalgia spells that contain up to 10 years of knowledge directly to audience members of a YouTube video. He's referenced real-world memes about the game, refers to his parent company Riot Games, other games that Riot has produced, the pros and the players themselves all in this video. And ironically enough, that spell was relegated into a YouTube video. So yeah, if Ryze really is that busted, he can interact with our world. He's got some weird wacky ass fourth wall breaking shit, if you really want to include super bullshit hyperwank. But outside of that, guys, Ryze is just a really cool champion. He's a mage that I think is really underrated and is really interesting, especially in lore. I think there's a lot of really cool lore to this game, world runes being one of the most significant aspects of that. And maybe for my next league scaling, if y'all blow up the likes, I'll hit up Xerath next, because he has a few quotes pointing towards Xerath that were really interesting, even saying, dude, that wildly powerful arcane energy that you use, is that your form? And so I think he'd be a cool champ to run down. But if you guys like that, be sure to like this. The coffee shop content creators are down low. Give them a like and subscribe, and I'll catch you guys next time. Later.